Hello, Algebra 1 class. This is going to be the lesson notes for lesson 1.2. So make sure you have all of your resources that you need. You need this classwork packet with the woohoo bitmoji, and it should say lesson 1.2 at the top left, investigating patterns. We're going to be investigation with writing expressions. So in this activity, you will be able to do this by the end of the lesson. If you could also circle the verbs and underline the nouns, as I have done. I can use units to understand and interpret problems. I can choose and interpret an appropriate scale for a graph. I can interpret parts of an expression. I can write an arithmetic sequence that models a situation. Also notice the correlating learning tasks. So you are watching this guided video as you take notes on this packet. You will need to complete the Desmos activity for part of the class notes and show your work on this packet. And then you will need to finish assignment 1 and spiral review 1. Vocabulary is the same as lesson 1.1. Sequence, common difference, consecutive terms, expression, and variable. All right. For this, I would like you to pause the video and I want you to do numbers 1 through 5 on your own. Show all your work. If it asks you to explain, make sure you do that. And then I want you to come back to the video and I'm going to go over that. All right, you should have done 1 through 5. So task 1, triangle sequences. The following pattern was created with toothpicks. Discuss what you noticed. So you should have written down some things that you noticed, or thought about it at least. So some things I noticed is there are 3 toothpicks in diagram 1, 6 toothpicks in diagram 2, 9 toothpicks in diagram 3. I also noticed that each side of the triangle for diagram 1, there was 1 toothpick on each side. There was 2 toothpicks on each side of diagram 2, and then 3 toothpicks on each side of diagram 3. Hopefully you were able to notice some of those, or even some others. Remember, it was anything you noticed, there's no right or wrong. 2, use the space below to sketch the next 2 diagrams in the pattern. So using what I noticed, how diagram 1 had 1 on each side, 2 had 2 on each side, I followed that. So I knew that diagram 4 was going to have 4 on each side, and diagram 5 was going to have 5 toothpicks on all 3 sides. And then I also noticed that the total number would be 12 for diagram 4 and 15 for diagram 5. Complete the table based on what you've created. So now I just transferred those numbers. I knew that diagram 1 had 3, so I put 3. Diagram 2 had 6 total. So I put 6, diagram 3 had 9, diagram 4 had 12, and diagram 5 had 15. Describe any numerical patterns you see in the data. So relating back to lesson 1.1, we were looking for those patterns in the table, and I noticed that in this table, between each number of toothpicks, it's increasing by 3 toothpicks. And then I also noticed that each time the number of toothpicks increases by 3, the diagram number increases by 1. I also noticed that the diagram number, so like number 1, there's 3 toothpicks. 1 times 3 equals 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. 3 times 3 equals 9, 4 times 3 equals 12, and so on. Number 5, write the number of toothpicks as a sequence. This is one of the vocabulary terms. Does the sequence have a common difference? Another vocabulary term. If so, identify it. So sequence, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, you're writing those consecutive terms. Another vocab term. And yes, there's a common difference. It's 3 because it's adding 3 every time. So think of that word common. It has the same number it's adding, and the difference is 3. It's adding 3 each time. All right, next I want you to pause the video and I want you to go to the next page and do number 6. Number 6 has A, B, and C. So right now pause the video and do 6, A, B, and C, please. All right, you should have paused the video and now you're back to check your work for 6A through C. All right, looking at 6A, determine the following, show your work or explain your process in words. How many toothpicks would be in the 7th diagram? So there's a few different strategies that I listed here. As long as you got 21 toothpicks, you did it correctly. So you could have continued the table. So we left off at diagram 5, and number of toothpicks was 15. So I just added 6 and 7, and then I just knew to keep adding 3 each time. So diagram 7 would have 21 toothpicks. Another way is, as I mentioned earlier, I noticed that the diagram number multiplied by 3, so I also could just do 7 times 3 equals 21 toothpicks. Relating this back to lesson 1.1 with the repeated addition, we left off at 15 toothpicks for diagram 5, and I knew that diagram 7 would have 2 more, so I added 3 2 more times. Or you can use the multiplication to represent that repeated addition. Since I knew that 7 is 2 more than 5, I know that I need to multiply 3 times 2 and add it to the 15, which is also 21. B, how many toothpicks would be in the 15th diagram? So once again, you could keep your table going. I just showed a couple of those strategies. I did 15 times 3 equals 45 toothpicks. And then I also used the multiplication to represent the repeated addition. So I knew that we left off at diagram 7 had 21 toothpicks. And to get to 15, the 15th diagram, I would need to add 8. 7 plus 8 equals 15. So I knew that we were going to have 8 groups of 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. Add that to the 21, you get 45 toothpicks. C, which diagram would contain 57 toothpicks? So notice how now it's talking about toothpicks. Above, it was asking us the diagrams. So with the diagram number, I was multiplying by 3, but now I'm going to go backwards or opposite, which we call the inverse operation. So it's the opposite. So think about the inverse of adding is subtracting. So the inverse of multiplying 3 would be dividing by 3. So 57 divided by 3 would equal 19. So it's the 19th diagram. Another way is you could use repeated addition to get there. We left off at 45 toothpicks for the 15th diagram. So if this represents the 15th diagram, each time I add 3, that's another diagram. So this 3 would be the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. So I just kept adding 3 till I got to 57th, and then I just counted. 45 represents the 15th diagram, then each one I added was 1 more, so that would be 19 total, 19th diagram. Okay, now I want you to pause it again and do numbers 7 and 8. Okay, you should have done 7 and 8 on your own. So for number 7, it asks, how is the number of toothpicks related to the diagram number? And I was already mentioning this earlier. The diagram number is multiplied by 3. So that helps us create the equation. Number 8 says use the variable in. Variable is another vocabulary term. Use the variable in to represent the diagram number. Write an expression, another vocab term, that could be used to determine the number of toothpicks in any diagram number. So I noticed that each diagram number was multiplied by 3 because there was a common difference of 3 each time. So 3 in would show 3 times in the diagram number. Remember, when we're using variable notation to show multiplication, you just put the number directly next to the variable, and this means 3 times n. And our n represents the diagram number. All right, go ahead and pause the video one last time and you will do numbers 9 through 11 independently. Make sure you show your work if it asks you to explain. All right, welcome back. Now let's review the last ones on this page. So number 9, use the grid provided to graph your data from the table. So going back to the table, you will always use the left column is your X and the right column is your Y. So the horizontal axis is your X, vertical is your Y. So you should have labeled the diagram number, so that was counting by ones. I went up to 9. And then the number of toothpicks is on the Y-axis, and that was increasing by 3. So I just started with 3 and just did 3, 6, 9, 12. And if you notice the points, if I were to draw a line through it, it creates a straight line, showing that constant rate of change. It's adding the same amount each time, so it creates a straight line. Number 10, show or explain with words how you can use the graph to confirm your answer from item 6A. So going back to 6A, it had asked us how many toothpicks were in the 7th diagram, and we got 21. So now I can prove that using my graph. I can go over to number 7 for my diagram number and go up, and I see that that point is at 721. Remember, when we are labeling our coordinates, our ordered pairs, it's X, Y. X goes first, then Y. So I know that the 7 represents my X, which is the diagram number, and the 21 represents Y, which is the number of toothpicks. So this helps me check my answer is correct, that the 7th diagram has 21 toothpicks. Number 11, show how you can use your expression, vocab term, to confirm your answer from item 6B. So item 6B, we were asked how many toothpicks were in the 15th diagram. We got 45 toothpicks. So I can plug that into my expression, 3n. In this case, I'm plugging in n equals 15 for the 15th diagram. So I plug it in, 3 times 15 equals 45 toothpicks total. All right, that concludes the video notes. Now you are going to complete the notes for 1-2 using the Desmos activity. So for group A, this is your code, and group B code. The link that I posted in the course calendar will take you directly to it, so it shouldn't make you type in the code, but these are available if you need them. So you're going to complete the rest of the 1-2 packet, lesson 1-2, and then remember the correlating resources that you also need to complete. You need to complete assignment 1 and spiral review 1, and then do not forget to grade those on your own using the keys on the course calendar, using a pen that's another color besides black, and then make your corrections in the pen. So do not erase anything. We learn from our mistakes, and I want to be able to see your mistakes so I can better support you. All right, thank you for watching.